I showed up with gifts for my mom on Christmas Eve, but my brother blocked the door and said, "Family only, you should go." I turned around without a word. Mom called minutes later, "Please don't make a scene." She didn't hang up properly. I heard her whisper, "She really thinks her grocery money buys her a place here." I stopped Groceries, cut every transfer, and by sunrise, 58 missed calls flooded my phone. My name is Vivian. I'm 32 years old. And if there's one thing I've learned in my adult life, it's this: being dependable doesn't mean being valued. It just means being used, quietly, efficiently, and without complaint. For 6 years, I'd been the silent foundation of my family. Every month, like clockwork, I transferred $1,800 to my mother's account. Groceries, utilities, her prescription medications that insurance never fully covered. Another $950 went to Garrett, my younger brother, for his rent. He'd been between jobs for what felt like forever, though his Instagram showed plenty of time for concerts, bar nights, and weekend trips to Miami. The math was simple. Over 6 years, I'd sent them $240,000. Maybe more. I stopped counting after year 4 because the number made my stomach turn. But I kept paying. That's what family does, right? You show up. You help. You don't ask for credit. Garrett was the golden child. Always had been. When we were kids, his report cards went on the fridge, even when they had C's and D's. Mine? Straight A's were met with a nod and a reminder to help him with his homework. When he crashed Dad's Camry at 17, they bought him another one. When I asked to borrow the car for prom, Mom said I should have planned better. At 22, Garrett moved out with no job and no savings. Mom called me crying. "He needs help, Vivian. Just until he gets on his feet." I wired him $900 the next day. That was 10 years ago. He still hadn't found his feet. Mom never asked how I was doing. She never asked if I could afford it. She just expected the transfers to appear, the grocery deliveries to arrive, the pharmacy bills to get paid. I was the emergency contact, the backup plan, the ATM with a heartbeat. I worked in IT management, good salary, stable job. I lived in a modest 1-bedroom apartment in Arlington because most of my income went to them. I drove a 7-year-old Honda Civic. I skipped vacations. I ate leftovers most nights. Meanwhile, Garrett posted photos from Cancun and Mom redecorated her living room twice in 3 years. But I never said anything. I told myself it was love. I told myself they needed me. I told myself that one day, maybe they'd see everything I'd done and appreciate it. Christmas was always complicated. I was invited, technically, but I was also an afterthought. Dinner was at 6 o'clock. I'd arrive at 5:50 with gifts and homemade snickerdoodles. Garrett would show up at 6:30 empty-handed and get a hug and a seat at the head of the table. Mom would gush over whatever vague story he told about his week while I sat in the corner, silent, smiling, dependable. This year, I wanted it to be different. I bought Mom a cashmere scarf she'd been eyeing for months at Nordstrom. I bought Garrett a leather wallet engraved with his initials. Expensive, thoughtful gifts. I wrapped them carefully, added bows, wrote cards by hand. I wanted them to see me. Just once. I grabbed my coat, checked my phone. No messages. I picked up the gifts, the cookies, and headed to my car. Snow was starting to fall, light and gentle. Christmas lights blinked on the neighboring townhouses. Everything felt peaceful. The drive to Mom's house in Fairfax took 20 minutes. I knew the route by heart. Every turn, every stoplight. I'd driven this path hundreds of times, for birthdays, emergencies, holidays. Always showing up. Always dependable. I had no idea that in less than 2 hours, my entire relationship with my family would shatter. And by morning, I'd become someone they feared instead of someone they used. I pulled into the driveway at 5:55 p.m. The house glowed warm through the windows. I could hear music playing inside, faint laughter. My mother's Christmas tree lights blinked red and green through the curtains. I grabbed the gifts from the passenger seat and walked up the steps, my breath fogging in the cold air. I knocked twice. Footsteps approached. The door opened halfway. Garrett stood there. He was wearing a new sweater, dark blue, probably cashmere. His hair was styled. He looked at me, then at the gifts in my hands, and his expression shifted. Not surprise. Not guilt. Just annoyance. Family only. You should go. I blinked. The words didn't register immediately. I thought maybe I'd misheard. What? He stepped into the doorway, blocking the entrance. Tonight's for family. Mom and I need some time. Just us. I stared at him. The gifts felt heavy in my hands. Garrett, it's Christmas Eve. He shrugged. Yeah. Family time. You understand, right? I didn't understand. My throat tightened. I glanced past him into the house. I could see the dining table set for two. Quand le lit. Plates arranged carefully. No third seat. Garrett tilted his head, waiting for me to leave. He didn't look uncomfortable. He looked like he was doing something reasonable, logical, like I was the one being difficult. I opened my mouth to argue, to ask why, to demand an explanation. But nothing came out. I just stood there holding the gifts, my hands starting to shake. Not from anger. From shock. From the quiet realization that I wasn't wanted here. I never had been. I turned around. I didn't say a word. I walked back to my car, placed the gifts on the passenger seat, and sat in the driver's seat with the engine off. My chest felt tight. My hands gripped the steering wheel. The snow fell heavier now, covering the windshield in soft white. I don't know how long I sat there. Maybe 2 minutes. Maybe 10. Then my phone rang. Mom's name flashed on the screen. I hesitated, then answered. Vivian, sweetheart, please don't make a scene. I didn't respond. I just listened. Garrett told me you stopped by. I know you're upset, but tonight's just not a good time. We'll do something next week, okay? Just you and me. I promise. Her voice was rushed, nervous, like she was trying to smooth over something small, something manageable. Like I was overreacting. I still didn't speak. She kept talking. It's just that Garrett's been going through a lot lately. He needs some support. You understand, right? You always understand. My jaw clenched. I stared at the snowflakes melting on the windshield. I wanted to hang up. I wanted to scream. But I just sat there, frozen. Okay, well, I'll let you go. Drive safe, sweetheart. There was a pause. I heard rustling. She was moving the phone away from her ear, but the call didn't disconnect. I could still hear her voice, distant now, muffled. And then I heard it. She really thinks her grocery money buys her a place here. My entire body went cold. I heard Garrett laugh. Quiet. Casual. She'll get over it. She always does. I know, but still. It's Christmas. I feel a little bad. Mom, stop. She's fine. She likes being the provider. Makes her feel important. There was silence for a few seconds. Then the call ended. I sat in the car, staring at my phone screen. The call duration blinked at me. 3 minutes, 42 seconds. The last 15 seconds had just rewired my entire understanding of my family. Grocery money. That's all I was to them. Not a daughter. Not a sister. Just grocery money. My hands were shaking now, but not from shock. From something colder. Something sharper. I started the engine. The heater kicked on, blasting warm air into the silent car. I didn't drive home right away. I just sat there, letting the words replay in my mind. She really thinks her grocery money buys her a place here. I thought about the $240,000. I thought about the 6 years. I thought about every late-night transfer, every emergency payment, every skipped vacation so they could have what they needed. And I realized something. They didn't need me. They just needed my money. I drove home in complete silence. No radio, no music, just the sound of tires on wet pavement and my own breathing. The gifts sat beside me, untouched. The snickerdoodles were still in the bag on the floor. When I got home, I didn't turn on the lights. I walked into my apartment, dropped my keys on the counter, and sat on the couch in the dark. The city lights outside my window cast faint shadows across the walls. I kept hearing her voice. She really thinks her grocery money buys her a place here. I replayed the moment over and over. The tone. The casual cruelty. The laughter that followed. Garrett's voice, amused, dismissive. She'll get over it. She always does. And the worst part was, they were right. I always did get over it. When I was 14, they forgot my birthday. Mom took Garrett to a Nationals game that day. When I reminded her later, she hugged me and said, "Oh sweetheart, we'll celebrate next weekend." We never did. When I graduated college with honors from Virginia Tech, Mom didn't come to the ceremony. She had to help Garrett move into his new apartment. She sent me a text, "Proud of you." 2 words. No exclamation point. When I got my first promotion at 26, I called to tell her. She was distracted. Garrett was in the background, upset about a breakup. She told me she'd call back. She never did. Every time, I swallowed the disappointment. I told myself it was okay. I told myself they were busy, stressed, dealing with their own problems. I made excuses for them. But tonight, there were no excuses left. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. I stared at the automatic transfers. Monthly payments scheduled for the first of every month. $1,800 to Mom. $950 to Garrett. 6 years of the same rhythm. I thought about canceling them right then. My finger hovered over the screen. But I stopped. Not yet. If I was going to do this, I needed to do it completely. Methodically. I needed to make sure they felt every single cutoff, every single loss. I needed them to understand exactly what they'd taken for granted. I opened a notes app and started typing a list. Every service. Every payment. Every subscription tied to them. Grocery delivery service, under my credit card. Utilities autopay, from my account. Mom's pharmacy auto refill, linked to my insurance. Garrett's car insurance, under my policy. Streaming services. Phone plan family bundle. Gym memberships. The list grew longer. I kept typing, my fingers moving faster now, my mind sharpening. I'd been paying for so much, I'd almost forgotten half of it. Little things. Big things. All of it connected to me. I leaned back on the couch, staring at the list. 37 items. 37 ways I'd woven myself into their lives, thinking it made me essential. Thinking it made me loved. But I wasn't essential. I was convenient. And now I was done being convenient. I set my phone down and closed my eyes. My chest still felt tight, but the shaking had stopped. The hurt was hardening into something else, something colder, something that didn't need their approval or their acknowledgement. Tomorrow was Christmas Day. By the time they woke up, everything would be different. I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel conflicted. I felt clarity. And for the first time in 6 years, I felt powerful. I couldn't sleep. Around 2 a.m., I got up and made coffee. I sat at my small kitchen table and started working through the list systematically, one item at a time. First, the grocery delivery service. Instacart, under my credit card, set to auto-deliver every week to Mom's address in Fairfax. Fresh produce, meat, dairy, pantry staples. She never placed the orders. I did. Every Sunday night, I'd sit and curate the list based on what I knew she needed. I logged into the account, canceled the subscription, deleted the saved addresses, removed my payment information. Confirmation email arrived within seconds. Your subscription has been ended. Next, the utilities. Mom's electricity, water, gas, all set to autopay from my checking account. I'd set it up 3 years ago when she complained about late fees. She never logged into the accounts. She didn't even know the passwords. I called Dominion Energy first. The automated system picked up. I navigated through the menu and reached a representative. I need to remove my payment method from this account. The representative asked for verification. I provided the account number, the billing address, my name as the payer. Are you the account holder, ma'am? No, but I'm the one paying. I want to stop. Pause. You'll need the account holder's permission to make changes. Then remove my card. I'm not authorizing any more payments. Another pause. I can issue a stop payment on your end. The account will revert to paper billing. Perfect. I did the same with water and gas. 3 companies. 3 stop payments. By the time I finished, it was 5:30 a.m. The sun hadn't risen yet, but I felt wide awake. I moved to Garrett's car insurance. He was on my policy as a secondary driver. I'd added him 4 years ago when he couldn't afford his own coverage. The monthly premium was $190. I'd been paying it without question. I logged into my Geico portal, clicked on his name, and selected Remove Driver. The system asked for confirmation. I clicked yes. Notification: Garrett Crawford has been removed from your policy. His coverage ends effective immediately. I smiled. It was a small smile, but it felt good. Next, the streaming services. Netflix, Hulu, Disney+, Spotify, all under my accounts, all shared with them. I went through each one, removed their profiles, changed the passwords. The phone plan was next. They were both on my Verizon family plan. Unlimited data, unlimited calls. I paid $210 a month for all 3 lines. I called the carrier. I need to remove 2 lines from my family plan. The representative pulled up my account. Which lines would you like to remove? I gave her the numbers. Mom's and Garrett's. Just to confirm, removing these lines will disconnect their service. They'll need to set up new accounts if they want to continue service. I understand. Okay. I've processed the removal. Their service will be disconnected within the next hour. I thanked her and hung up. I checked the time. 6:15 a.m. I imagined Mom waking up, reaching for her phone. No service. She'd think it was a network issue. She'd restart her phone. Still nothing. Garrett would do the same. They wouldn't panic yet. Not until they tried to turn on the lights and nothing happened. Not until they opened the fridge and realized the grocery delivery never came. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the list of cancellations. I'd barely started, and already I felt lighter, like I was shedding weight I'd been carrying for years. I picked up my phone. 53 unread texts. 42 missed calls. All from the last 2 hours. I didn't open them. I didn't need to. I already knew what they said. At 10 a.m., I decided to drive to Mom's house. Not because I wanted to reconcile, but because I wanted to see their faces when they realized what I'd done. I parked across the street and waited. 5 minutes later, the front door opened. Garrett stepped out, phone in hand, pacing the driveway. He looked frustrated. He kept pressing buttons, shaking the phone like that would fix it. Mom appeared in the doorway, wrapped in a robe. She was talking to him, gesturing. I couldn't hear the words, but I could read her body language. Confusion. Panic. Garrett pointed at the house, then at his phone. Mom shook her head, went back inside. Garrett followed. I waited another 10 minutes. Then I got out of the car and walked up to the door. I knocked once. Garrett opened it immediately. His face was red. Vivian, finally. What the hell is going on? I didn't answer. I just looked at him. Mom appeared behind him. Vivian, sweetheart, thank God. Something's wrong with the accounts. The power's out. My phone's not working. And the grocery order never came. I nodded slowly. I know. Garrett frowned. You know? Then fix it. No. The word hung in the air. Simple. Final. Mom blinked. What do you mean no? I mean I'm not fixing it. I cancelled everything. Her face went pale. You cancelled what? The utilities. The phone plan. The groceries. The insurance. All of it. Garrett stepped forward. Are you serious right now? It's Christmas, Vivian. Yeah. Family time, right? His jaw clenched. That was a misunderstanding.
No, Garrett.
It wasn't. Mom reached out, touching my arm. Vivian, please. We can talk about this. Let's just sit down and... I pulled my arm away. You had your chance to talk last night, but you chose to laugh about me instead. Her eyes widened. What are you talking about? I pulled out my phone, opened the call log, and showed her the duration of our last conversation. 3 minutes, 42 seconds. You didn't hang up. I heard everything. Mom's face crumbled. Vivian, I didn't mean it like that. Yes, you did. Garrett scoffed. Okay, so you're throwing a tantrum because of one comment? Grow up. I turned to him. I've paid your rent for 10 years. I've covered your car insurance, your phone, your emergencies. I've sent you over $100,000. And you told Mom I like being the provider because it makes me feel important. He didn't respond. I looked at Mom. And you said I think my grocery money buys me a place here. Like I was delusional. Like I was pathetic. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. So here's the deal. You wanted family only? You got it. From now on, you handle everything yourselves. No more transfers. No more payments. No more emergency calls. Garrett stepped closer. You can't just cut us off. Watch me. Mom started crying. Vivian, please. We need you. No, you don't. You need my money. And that stops today. I turned and walked back to my car. Garrett shouted something behind me, but I didn't hear it. I got in, started the engine, and drove away. In my rearview mirror, I saw them standing in the driveway. Mom was sobbing. Garrett was on his phone, probably trying to call me. I blocked both their numbers. By the time I got home, I had 58 missed calls. I didn't return a single one. I spent the rest of Christmas Day gathering proof. Not because I owed them an explanation, but because I knew they'd try to twist the narrative. They'd call me cruel, ungrateful, selfish. They'd tell friends and extended family that I'd abandoned them for no reason. I wasn't going to let that happen. I logged into my Bank of America account and downloaded 6 years of transaction history. Every transfer, every Venmo payment, every auto-pay setup. I exported it all into a spreadsheet and organized it by date, category, and recipient. The totals were staggering. Mom, $129,600 in direct transfers. Another $34,000 in groceries, utilities, medical expenses, and subscriptions. Garrett, $114,000 in rent payments. Another $22,000 in car insurance, phone plan, emergency loans, and random Venmo requests. Grand total, $299,600. I stared at the number. Nearly $300,000 in 6 years. That was a down payment on a house in Bethesda. That was early retirement savings. That was freedom I'd traded for their approval. Approval I never got. I started pulling screenshots. Text messages where Mom asked for money and I immediately agreed. Venmo requests from Garrett with captions like, "Bro, I need this ASAP," and "Thanks sis, you're the best." Emails from utility companies confirming auto-pay setups. I also pulled up the recording on my phone. The call from Christmas Eve was still there. I played it back, listening to her voice one more time. She really thinks her grocery money buys her a place here. I saved the audio file, backed it up to 3 different locations, Google Drive, Dropbox, and an external hard drive. Then I opened my email and started drafting a message. Not to them. To the extended family. Aunts, uncles, cousins. People who would inevitably hear their version of events. I didn't write it with anger. I wrote it with facts. Subject, setting the record straight. Over the past 6 years, I have financially supported my mother and brother to the sum of nearly $300,000. This includes rent, utilities, groceries, insurance, medical expenses, and countless emergency payments. I did this willingly, believing it was what family does. On Christmas Eve, I was turned away from their home and told I was not part of the family. I later overheard my mother say I thought my grocery money bought me a place there. That statement clarified my role. I was not a daughter or sister. I was a funding source. Effective immediately, I have ended all financial support. This is not a tantrum. This is a boundary. I am attaching transaction records, screenshots, and communications for transparency. I wish them well, but I will no longer be their ATM. Vivian. I attached the spreadsheet, the screenshots, and a PDF summary of the key transactions. I saved the email as a draft. I didn't send it yet. I wanted to wait and see what they'd do first. By 8 p.m., my phone had 73 missed calls. My voicemail was full. I didn't listen to any of them. Instead, I checked their social media. Garrett had posted a vague status, "Family is everything. Some people forget that." I laughed. The audacity. Mom hadn't posted anything, but I saw she was active in a family group chat I'd muted months ago. I opened it. 27 new messages. Most from her. Has anyone heard from Vivian? I'm so worried about her. She's not answering her phone. I think she's having some kind of breakdown. Garrett chimed in. She cut off all the accounts. Power, phone, everything. On Christmas. Who does that? Aunt Lorraine replied, "That doesn't sound like Vivian." Are you sure? Garrett sent a screenshot of his disconnected phone service. Yeah, I'm sure. Mom sent another message, "I don't know what happened. She just snapped." I read through the entire thread. Not once did they mention what they'd said. Not once did they admit to turning me away. They were painting themselves as victims. I closed the group chat and opened my draft email. I added Aunt Lorraine, Uncle Kenneth, and 4 other relatives to the recipient list. My finger hovered over the send button. Not yet. I wanted them to panic more. I wanted them to dig their hole deeper. I put my phone down and made dinner, spaghetti carbonara, something I never made for myself because I was always too busy or too tired. For the first time in 6 years, I ate without guilt. And it tasted like freedom. By December 26th, the panic had escalated. My phone now showed 107 missed calls. My email inbox had 14 messages from Mom, each one more desperate than the last. Subject, "Please call me." Subject, "Vivian, we need to talk." Subject, "I'm begging you." I didn't open them. Instead, I made my next move. I called Mom's landlord directly. She rented her house in Fairfax. I'd been the one paying the rent for the past 3 years, always sending the check from my account with her name in the memo. The landlord knew me. "Hi, this is Vivian Crawford. I need to inform you that I will no longer be covering rent payments for 428 Maple Street, effective immediately." The landlord paused. "Understood. I'll reach out to your mother for payment arrangements." "Thank you." I hung up. Next, I contacted Garrett's landlord through the property management portal. Same message. "I am no longer responsible for rent payments. Please contact tenant directly." Confirmation email arrived within minutes. Then I moved to the car insurance. Garrett's coverage was already cancelled, but I took it a step further. I contacted the DMV and requested removal of my name from his vehicle registration. I'd co-signed 3 years ago when he needed help financing his Mazda. I filled out the release of liability form, submitted it online, and received a confirmation number. Garrett's car was now entirely his problem. At 3 p.m., someone knocked on my door. Hard. Aggressive. I looked through the peephole. Garrett. I didn't open it. "Vivian, I know you're in there. Open the door." I stayed silent. He knocked again. "Mom's freaking out. She doesn't know how to pay the rent. The power's still off. We don't have food." I watched him through the peephole. His face was red, angry, desperate. "This is insane. You can't just do this. We're family." Family. The word that used to make me bend. The word that used to make me sacrifice. Now it was just noise. He kept knocking for 5 more minutes. Then he stopped. I heard his footsteps retreat. A car door slammed. Engine started. He drove away. I sat back down at my desk and opened the family group chat again. It had exploded with activity. Mom posted, "Vivian has abandoned us. I don't understand why. We've always been there for her." Garrett posted, "She's being selfish. Completely cut us off. No explanation." Aunt Lorraine replied, "This is very concerning. Has anyone actually spoken to her?" Garrett answered, "She won't talk to anyone." Mom added, "I think she needs professional help." I read the messages without emotion. They were doing exactly what I'd predicted, spinning the story, making me the villain. I opened my draft email, added one more line at the end. I have included an audio recording from Christmas Eve where I overheard my mother's true feelings about my contributions. I encourage anyone who doubts this decision to listen to the full context before forming an opinion. I attached the audio file. Then I hit send. The email went out to 12 relatives. Aunts, uncles, cousins. People who had always been kind to me. People who deserved the truth. I sat back and waited. 10 minutes later, Aunt Lorraine called me. I answered. Vivian, honey. I just read your email. Okay. I had no idea. I'm so sorry. It's okay. No, it's not. What they said to you, what they did, that's horrible. And the fact that you've been supporting them for years? No one knew. They didn't want anyone to know. I listened to the recording. Vivian, I don't blame you for cutting them off. Not at all. I exhaled. Thank you. If you need anything at all, you call me. Understand? I will. She paused. Your mom's going to have a hard time with this. I know. But you did the right thing. We talked for a few more minutes. She told me she loved me. She told me I deserved better. When we hung up, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Validation. Within an hour, 3 more relatives reached out. All of them supportive. All of them shocked. The narrative was shifting. Garrett sent me one final text before I blocked him permanently. You're dead to me. I stared at the message. And I smiled. Because he finally understood. I was done being their ATM. I was done being their ghost. I was free. 3 weeks later, I changed my phone number. I didn't tell Mom or Garrett. I only gave the new number to people I trusted. Aunt Lorraine. A few close friends. My boss. The old number kept ringing. Voicemails piled up. I never checked them. Eventually, the messages stopped. I heard through Aunt Lorraine that Mom had to move. She couldn't afford the rent. She moved in with Garrett, and they were splitting a smaller apartment in Alexandria. The utilities were under their names now. They were paying their own phone bills, managing their own groceries. They were functioning, just barely, but they were surviving. I didn't feel guilty. I also heard Garrett lost his car. He couldn't afford the insurance or the registration fees. He sold it at a loss and started taking the metro. Mom complained to relatives that I'd ruined their lives. Aunt Lorraine defended me every time. She shared my email with a few more people. The truth spread quietly. No one blamed me. A few relatives even reached out to apologize for not noticing how one-sided things had been. I didn't need their apologies, but it was nice to be seen. In January, I started therapy. Not because I was broken, but because I wanted to understand how I'd let things go so far. How I'd confused love with obligation. My therapist asked me one question in our 3rd session that stuck with me. What would it look like to build a life where you're valued, not used? I didn't have an answer right away. But I started thinking about it. I started small. I joined a gym in Clarendon. I took a weekend trip to the Blue Ridge Mountains. I bought new furniture for my apartment, a teal velvet couch I'd been eyeing for months. I went to dinners with friends without checking my phone every 5 minutes. I stopped living in survival mode. By February, I'd saved more money than I had in years. Without the constant drain of their needs, my bank account actually grew. I opened a Roth IRA. I started planning a real vacation. Italy, maybe. Or Greece. Places I'd always wanted to go but never could because I was too busy funding their lives. In March, I got a promotion at work. My boss noticed I seemed more focused, more confident. I was, because I was no longer carrying the weight of 2 other people's choices. I celebrated with Aunt Lorraine over dinner at a bistro in Georgetown. She hugged me and told me she was proud. It was the first time in years someone had said that to me and actually meant it. I thought about Mom and Garrett sometimes. I wondered if they regretted it. I wondered if they ever apologized to each other for taking me for granted. But I didn't wonder enough to reach out. Some bridges aren't meant to be rebuilt. One evening in late April, I was sitting on my balcony with a glass of Pinot Grigio, watching the sunset over the Potomac. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is your mother. Please call me. I miss you. I stared at the message for a long time. My chest tightened. Old instincts whispered, call her. Fix it. Be the bigger person. But I wasn't that person anymore. I deleted the message, blocked the number, and went back to watching the sunset. The sky turned orange, then pink, then deep purple. The city lights blinked on one by one. Everything felt calm, quiet. For 6 years, I'd been the invisible provider, the dependable daughter, the emergency fund with a heartbeat. Now I was just Vivian. And that was enough.